Today we're gonna celebrate open banking, you can say. A lot has been discussed in the past, say 2 years probably, about open banking, about the opportunity, about how everything connects to the financial industry. And we see more and more embedded finance in that moving from non-financial institutions into financial aspects, providing financial services. So we have for you today a wonderful keynote by Microsoft and a great panel, following by a great panel. And first I'd like to say thank you for all of you. Actually, yesterday in the pouring rain, I was pretty concerned that you might not come, but we got a good day today. So thank you all for voting with your feet and coming over. It's much appreciated. This is our last event for 2022. Our next event is going to be the annual summit, which will take place on March 14th. We're going to share information about that. It's going to be a full-day event. We have several delegations coming from abroad. We have a line of speakers coming to share information with you. So make sure you stay up to date, and we'll make sure to send you more information about that. Feel free to contact myself or Nir for any additional information. So let's start talking about open banking. And for our first session, no, that's just music. For our first session, I would like to invite Ariel. Yeah, so Ariel Negrin, no, I want to introduce you properly, right? So Ariel Negrin, I hope I pronounced that correctly, so leading the Azure in Israel. And I'll change that for you. So go ahead, introduce yourself, the wonderful group we have here, and take it away.
Thank you so much. So hi, good evening everyone. Thank you for joining us. Lovely evening without rain, so we had a nice way getting here to the middle of Tel Aviv. And today I would like to talk about Microsoft perspective about banking as a service, I would say, to give you a little perspective on how we see things and how we can help both startups, corporates, and enterprises in that space. I've been working for Microsoft for 8 years now. I had a couple of years working with the financial services industry in Israel, and in the past 2 years I had a very strong focus leading a startup program we have in Israel and working with a lot of FinTechs that we collaborate with, co-sell and co-market with financial solutions to local and global customers in the UK, USA, the Emirates, APAC, and so forth. So without further ado, I want to start my presentation discussing about what consumers are expecting, right? So you know, Gen Z and even Gen X and Gen Y are expecting better experiences from their financial well-being, financial services that they consume. And they want to have a more empowered lifestyle rather than work for the bank, work for the insurance companies, etc. And so going into hyper-personalization to provide this kind of new experience, these organizations have to have really a good understanding of the customer's lifestyle. Okay, so it could be around the family, the wellness, the mood, whatever I'm into, my hobbies, my concerns, right? Not everything is positive, right? Not eating pizza and drinking wine like in the previous picture is not how we live all the time. We have some things we have to take care of. And so getting all of this information about the customer could be easy for a neobank, or I would say maybe a digital organization like Netflix, Spotify, Google. We have Amazon. We have a lot of data about our where we live, right? So the reason I'm talking about this is because the bank's competition is changing. You know, they're losing a lot of, or not acquiring a lot of the data that other organizations like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple have about their customers across the different pieces of their lives, okay? And this is where they lose control over the relationship with the customer. They can become very quickly obsolete and interchangeable, and this is what they want to change, right? So if I'm talking about relationships, sorry, this clicker is very sensitive. Looking at the future, who is going to own most of the relationship or mind share with the end customer, with the consumers in 10 years, right? You see also, Amazon and Google, Apple starting to produce financial products and getting more and more chunks of, first of all, the mind share and the wallet share of the consumers, right, and the organizations. And so, looking at this industry and where it could be developed, Finastra, our partners, and Equtech partners, of course, estimate that this industry could be worth $7 trillion by the end of 2030. And you could see that it splits between new market opportunities, between existing wholesale markets, and between what we call embedded finance, like embedded insurance, embedded lending, is where you consume financial services without being a customer of that financial institution, okay? And so, looking forward, what are the banks doing reacting to this change? So, a lot of them trying to remove the friction. We see the customer are starting to move away from traditional organization. We started to see the banks trying to upgrade their IT, although they have a lot of technical debt, legacy, regulation, spaghetti software kind of issues where they're struggling to move forward and innovate their customers' experience. And also, cyber is something that's threatening everyone, and so moving away from the legacy systems towards the cloud, to some may seem like a risk, although to many who really get it, can be understood as something that can help them to face these challenges of financial crime and fraud. Okay, so we're actually talking about how the bank industry value chain is changing from becoming a place people come to a place where it's like surrounding the ecosystem of the customer, where you consume services from banks, from suppliers who could have this embedded services, finance services behind them, and other financial entities that it does not necessarily have to have a previous contact with or an open account, I would say. Okay? And so we're seeing more this is in Hebrew, so sorry if you can't read Hebrew, it's a statement from the Bank of Israel where they approved a new bank, okay, started by Nir Tzuk, etc. It's, I think, for 2 days ago, right? Yeah, 2 days ago. Thank you, Tamir, for sending. And so we're seeing this competition coming towards also from customers expecting new experiences and from new organization being set up, and again, continuing to chunk, getting more chunks from the customers, mindshare, etc. And so I wanted to talk a bit just about Microsoft, what we do. Of course, we have our cloud where we have infrastructure, security solution, applications, etc. But our main focus as an organization that was coming from enterprise and is very understanding the enterprise needs is through these industries. And one of them, of course, is the financial services industry. Microsoft has launched roughly around a year ago, maybe a little bit more, the Financial Services Cloud, okay? Which is a place where we take all of our solutions and tailor them to the end customer, which is a bank or insurance company, needs. So it could be like frictionless customer experience. It could be fighting financial fraud. Anyone coffee? Sorry, no, I'm kidding. Now's the time. So we developed this kind of a cloud which wraps all the solution, but we also open an API and data scheme for startups and partners to be able to consume this data and to integrate this data and enrich, okay? So we have a lot of partners that are completing our solution and coming with a very niche solution to accommodate the end customer. By the way, the financial cloud is developed here in the Israeli Development Center in Herzliya. So it's a big pride for us. Oops. And again, this cloud is nothing more than actually taking all of the solutions by tailoring them to the specific needs of the financial services industry. So again, it could be unified customer profile, risk assurance, customer engagement, etc., etc. But this is not the focus. The focus is where we as Microsoft, sorry, just keep getting clicked. What's happening here? Maybe I'll lose this one. Just click with the mouse, yeah. So this is where, what's happening here? Anyway, yeah, a lot of Amazon, yeah. It's not what I've intended to happen with this slide. What I'm trying to do, and maybe I'll just get out of this presentation mode. Let me try to get out of it, because this is a very important slide. No, it's okay. It's cool, I've got this covered. If I can use PowerPoint, who can, right? Yeah, anyway. Okay, so what we're talking here about is actually moving away from becoming, let me try to zoom in on this, and if not, you'll just have to take my word for it. So we're moving away from this kind of customer-vendor relationship where we sell only tech to where we have transformational partnerships with customers like Swiss Re, like Allianz, like UBS, when we develop global platforms to provide end customer solutions. So Microsoft is actually becoming like a real partner, sort of a VC in those traditional enterprises, and help them to innovate and, again, accommodate needs like accommodating the PSD2 open banking regulation in the European continent, I would say, and set of countries, and building actually joint ecosystems. For example, working with Adobe and SAP to build the data scheme for banks, okay, and things like that. So, again, coming back to the slide, this is where we're having a strong commitment of not competing with our customers. It's a very strong commitment by Microsoft. We're not competing with financial institutions. We're not competing with health providers. We're not competing with the retailers. So you would find Microsoft working together with Walmart or HSBC to provide better solution rather than opening a new bank, okay? So going forward, helping those organizations who want to build this innovative app, right, and this frictionless experience to the end customers, it takes time. So what we do is we work with the banks, with consultants, of course. It could be also external consultants, companies like Ernst & Young, Accenture, EY, or whatnot, and local here and the rest of the states. And we're taking them from legacy to digital banking, and it could be starting from the front end, then working on the back end where we help to migrate from legacy as well, okay? And having this, I would say, bank blueprint, this universal bank blueprint, you don't need to read this, right? You're not supposed to read it. There are many, many parts in a bank, right? So we have a set of partners and our solutions that help the bank to get to this place. And specifically for banking as a service, we have a team of consultants and specific solutions that are entitled in making those banks go forward on our cloud, okay? So just stopping here to say that we see ourselves as enablers for the traditional enterprises, for the neobanks to set up their whole platform on our platform, and of course for the startups to become a part of these ecosystems, okay? And again, getting the bank to be, for example, become an API-enabled marketplace. This is where we have specific examples, like from an agriculture, retail, and other fields. Another distribution, I would say another distribution channels that we have is, of course, our consumer business software. It could be Edge, it could be Microsoft Teams, it could be even Office, where we can have FinTechs and I would say traditional enterprises put their services and enable to reach to the end customer, okay? So Microsoft is, of course, in touch with billions of end users around the globe, and we have this ability. But it doesn't take one day to become this kind of a digital banking as a service organization, and we have this horizon view. We have this, so Tal, you said you checked all the slides. It doesn't work. I don't know what happened here. Never mind. So we have this, I would say, three horizon mode where we start to, first of all, modernize the core business and then move towards other fields of investment. So it could be banks that want to sell insurance products, okay? It could be even banks that, like, in 10 years, want to be able to provide financial services or embedded finance within metaverse or gaming or crypto. Okay? So this entire set of different realities, different universes where banks does not reach today, they want to be there in 5 to 10 years. Okay? And we have this kind of way to take them there. Coming to conclusion soon, we are working again globally. We have 74 regions around the globe, and that is relevant for regulation. We are working with regulators Microsoft has 192 subsidiaries across the globe, and we're making sure we're remaining compliant and accommodating, the global compliance demands like ISO, government where applies like China and the US, industry like PCI, etc., and of course regional demands like the European GDPR, German, and what more. So just a couple of examples. We have Sexo Bank, who built like I would say a range of API exposure to their services, starting from like a novice basic trading API until they reach like a specialized app integrated. So this is where like FinTechs, new FinTechs come and connect to their platform, or even retail techs. Okay, so that's one example. We have ClearBank, which is the first clearing bank in the UK in the past 250 years, who built their entire bank on Azure, like everything. There's nothing on premises. Okay, and they built this API for payments, and they work of course across the UK. One last example is the US bank, where they connected through Microsoft Dynamics Finance their payment API, and are now working again with customers across the US. Okay, so these are just a couple of examples. Of course, we have many more. And thank you for listening. We can chat later. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Ariel. And we'll take care of that beef that you had with me on stage publicly. But okay, we'll do that. Thank you, Ariel, for the great presentation. So we're going to move now to our next session, which will be a panel with some of the industry leaders who try to combine business regulators, just to give you a point of view of each of them on what happened in the open banking industry and what will be the future of it. So I'd like to invite Nir Netzer. He's founding partner at Equtech, who will moderate the panel, and brace yourself.
Thank you, Tal. Hi, everybody. How are you? So thank you very much, Ariel. It was definitely eye-opening. I want to invite on stage to join me Ami Zakov from Phoebe. Please join me. Eyal Zvuluni from Fizbek, Nerian Nefesh from Bank of Israel, and Tamir from Microsoft. Please, round of applause. Okay, join me. Yeah, you better, maybe we'll try to see according to your pictures here. Okay, how are you guys? Ready? Yeah. We have only one mic, so we're going to do it like this, in turns. So, we had our preliminary discussions, and of course it's going to be super interesting discussion about open banking, as we all understand. But before we jump into this business, let's have a quick roundtable: names, positions, and what do you do for your company.
Okay. So hi, my name is Tamir Obergot. I'm account technology strategist for the FSI sector in Microsoft. You see, Microsoft is industry-oriented. Working in industry-oriented approach, as Ariel just showed you. So the entire solution, services, consulting that Microsoft provides are focusing on the industry challenges, trends of the customers of the industry. So my job is to work with the companies, with our customers, understand those challenges, trends, and regulations, and translate them into Microsoft solutions.
Hi everybody, my name is Nerian from the Banking Supervision Department, and I'm a member of the Open Banking team in the Central Bank. In my previous role, I took part in the establishment of the National Data Credit Sharing System, which can allow the credit bureaus to have your credit scores. And thanks for having me today to share some thoughts about the open banking. And that's it from me.
Hi, my name is Eyal. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at FinTechs. FinTechs is the leading open banking provider in Israel. We're building infrastructure for open banking, starting from the basic drawing of data from the various institutions up to building use cases for banks, credit card companies, insurance companies, investment firms, lenders, FinTechs working with SMBs, FinTechs working with consumers, all the range of those entities, and of course the future participants in this game, wallets, retailers, payment institutions, all of the participants in this new arena of open banking.
Hello everyone, nice to see a big crowd. My name is Ami Zakov. I'm Head of FinTech and Innovation at FIDI, the first international bank of Israel. We do a lot of collaborations with startups and FinTech, so you can reach out to me if you don't know me already. We do quite a lot of that and are very active also in open banking, actually leading the arena with the banking industry in Israel. So it will be nice to discuss this topic with you today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Ami and everyone. And I have my experience with Ami. I can vouch for that. He is speaking the truth. We actually had some collaborations out of these kind of events that came out and turned out to the best. We might be able to talk about it as we go, but I would like to have your opinion, first thing first, about the way you think that the open banking trend contributes to the financial industry as a whole. What do you think? What is the biggest contribution that open banking has as a trend on the financial industry?
So I really think that, I really believe that open banking will revolutionizing the finance industry. It's the beginning of the revolution because you see, for the first time, open banking forces the banks to share the customer data, which is the most valuable asset that any organization has, and especially financial organization. This leads to a situation that the bank must reinvent themselves, must think of a new way, a new business model to generate new revenue. So we see banks that not just exposing the raw data of the customers, they are reinvent themselves and modernize their core services and expose them as well, their products such as payments, loans, mortgages, and what we are calling banking as a service. More than that, they are offering even more insights besides the raw data on the end customer, so they can bring to the FinTech more value and generate a new stream of revenue for that. And if we look on the FinTech, on the other side, FinTechs now have data to analyze and to work with in order to bring more personalized experience, more value to the end consumers. And I believe that in time, the market, the consumers will demand this personalization. They will not want to get a shelf product, that they're used to have up until now.
Well, Tamir took my words, actually. I wanted to talk about the phrasing of the question. It is not a trend, it is a revolution. It's one of the steps, or one of the first steps of changing the concept about the ownership of data. That it's not only the corporate, but also the end user, the customer. And about the open banking as well. We are not at open banking in Israel anymore. We are at the open finance era. Since of the end of October, so 2 months ago, the banks have to share their saving and loans data, and according to the law, other financial institutions will have to share their information about savings as well until the end of next year. So it is not an open banking anymore, it's an open finance. And about the contribution, as Tamir said, from the financial institution as well, they can have now with the cooperation with FinTechs and so on, a full picture or a more full picture, of their customers or the potential customers. And also, as Tamir said, about the customer, we believe it's a great tool for him or her to understand and consume their financial services. So that's basically it.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly like Neria said, it's not just open banking, it's already credit, it's going to be even investments. Whatever we buy and sell on the stock market, we want to compare that, we want to use better services. Open banking in Israel is going to do that before it's going to do that in other markets, meaning Israel is even advancing faster than other open banking markets, which is very important innovation. In general, if we want to look into the future, we can look at the UK. For example, I think they passed the 6 million user threshold. 6 million UK citizens have registered for open banking, giving their data to third parties and telling them, yeah, I want lower interest, I want better savings, I want to refinance my mortgage, I want to trade better on the markets, I want to see my loans consolidated in one place. The biggest change is that we've been accustomed to go to our bank and ask for services, and now we'll go to our bank or other financial institutions and get even new products, new services that we didn't know were possible. A lot of fintech innovation using that data that we didn't have yesterday, we're going to have that tomorrow.
So I'll just add, maybe divide it into three. There are the FinTechs, which are, they have the opportunity to access banking data and provide new services, so new business models that they can monetize. Got the banks that have to compete, so banks are moving uncomfortably and looking also for new models and trying to stop the unbundling process of many of the financial services that are going out to FinTechs and competing with them. And the customers that are enjoying this competition, getting new services, aggregation services and insight services on their financials. So all of the partners are actually enjoying this wealth of data that is now accessible, which wasn't accessible until not long ago. So there is a lot of change going on in this field. And I mean, continue to your answer right now. Maybe you'll tell us and our audience, what did it take to be the first bank in Israel that offered its end clients open banking-based services? What did you do that was different from other banks? Well, we were and still are the first bank that provided financial services based on open banking in Israel. And being the first is like paving the way. So there are a lot of difficulties and resources that a bank has to go through to make that service work. The beginning is always tough. There are a lot of childhood diseases that we had to solve because no one solved that before us. We didn't have anyone to copy from because we had to be the first bank that is actually introducing these kind of services for our customers. But there are great advantages being first because it creates a culture of learning and in-depth learning for the organization, because it's not taking a product and just implementing, it's building a product, and then that creates the organization a need to learn and understand much more in depth. More like a startup that is starting a new business and they have to be an expert in the field. So there's a lot of added values, and also provides a much better understanding of the business and what we can do further down the road to provide more value and create more business for the organization. So it's difficult being first. It's taking a risk.
financial institutions don't like taking risks, especially banks don't like taking risks. So it's choosing the right risks for the organization and risks that they can manage properly. And we believe that that is part of the banking future, open banking and open finance, and that is why we also decided that that is a risk that we want to take. We understand that there is a learning curve. UK took many years until they reached the 6 million customers. We believe that it will take a few years in Israel as well until there's enough confidence and enough people know about the services. It takes time. The key is providing real value to customers. It's not enough just to talk about it. You have to provide value, and that will bring the customers into the service.
Thank you, Ami. Thank you very much. I think it's super interesting to understand that you always need to innovate, and open banking helps you actually do that. And what's interesting in this panel discussion, in this diversification that we have here, is we have the representative of the bank, of the startup, of the regulator, and the corporate. And maybe we'll hear Eyal's opinion now from the startups perspective. What do you think, Eyal? How can open banking support the industry, maybe by reducing risks? Ami talked about risks. How do you see that? How do you do that? What's your opinion?
Okay, so if we look at banking as a business model, as an industry, banking takes money that costs less and provides it to the public and businesses and institutions for interest. That's the basic business model of a bank, trading money as a goods. That's risky because when you lend out money, some of it does not return. Okay, there's defaults, there's problems in identifying the risks. What we're seeing is a lot of use cases with open banking. The institutions want to reduce this risk. They want to use the data and actually get to know the customer, whether it's a private individual and they're giving them money for a mortgage, or whether it's a business and they're giving that lending as a business credit line, credit cards, whatever. They want to model the risk better, meaning they want to know the entire history and projection of the business or the individual before they lend out that money. That's a big risk. Open banking helps in doing that. We've seen a lot of use cases, and the newest use cases, and maybe I'll talk a bit later on about regulation and why Israel is special in that regards, is modeling the risk using new data streams. Not just the credit score, like Neria mentioned, which is the mainstream way of modeling risk, knowing the credit history, how many defaults, what's the risk associated with the specific persona or institution that's lending the money, borrowing the money, excuse me, but also the history. What's the spending history? What's the income? What's the expenses, the investments made by that institution? Is it a good customer to give them money or not? And if something happens along the way, should we ask for some of the loan back? Should we call them up? Making it a lot more interactive, a lot more engaging, using real-time data. So that's reducing the risk, especially in these times when there's a lot of financial risk. The financial crisis is bringing the risk levels higher and higher, so we're seeing new, it's called alternative data. Open banking is an alternative source of data. We're seeing that put into use more and more.
Yeah. What if people are excluded from credit access from causes independent of them? Say somebody is framed with past violence by an ex-wife who wants to be an ex-wife.
So we can keep the questions for the end, but basically I think that this question is a very interesting and relevant one, and we are basically talking about unbanked and underbanked, people that are excluded from the financial industry. Do you have anything to say about that and the way open banking can contribute to these kind of audiences?
Right, I'm making a movie about
So,
it. It's called Sentence Ban.
Okay, underbanked or unbanked. So usually the banks they have very good sources of money. It's called deposits. It's guaranteed by the government. Citizens put the money within the banks, and the banks decide who to lend it out to. A lot of riskier individuals or riskier small businesses they don't get access to that money because they seem risky because of 101 different reasons. So then, I want to try and answer. So then open banking actually opens that segment up and shows them that even though that individual doesn't have a credit history because it's a foreign worker or it's just a person that didn't ever take up loans, open banking actually shows, okay, this is the financial behavior. It's actually a good borrower. You should give them more money. So it actually increases the market for lending. We've seen that happen.
Right.
Yeah, I fully agree. And alternative data sets, it's a perfect example for a collaboration between fintechs, banks, and corporates. And what do you think that open banking will bring to this kind of triangle collaboration between these players? How do you see that happening in the upcoming few years?
So if you think of it, the regulator is the one that is dictating the pace that open banking will, the open banking evolution, because the more data that is being allowed to share with the fintechs, with the third parties, the more personalized experience and the more accurate solutions that the fintechs will be able to deliver. So I really think that the collaboration between all the three regulators, the banks and the fintechs, are super important. And if you think about it from the banks and the fintechs perspective, there is also super important part of the collaboration, because the fintechs at the end don't not just rely on the customer data. They need for the entire ecosystem more services, more financial services from the bank, and more insights like credit scores and other things in order to make good and intelligent decisions. Yeah. So I believe that the market leaders will be the ones that will do the collaboration, like tight collaboration and partnership with each other, and at the end we will see embedded solution, embedded services, like the fintechs will embed their solutions inside the banking services and the other way around. So I believe, again, fintechs should work with the banking industry and try to work with them very, very tight and cooperate with them, and the banks at the other end should listen to their needs in order to extend the reach to new consumers, to new customers.
You are correct, Amir. But what I was coming on is another thing. I'm sorry, I keep going.
That's all.
You keep the questions for the end, Eddie?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Anyone something to add on top of this?
Tamir, I'm there. The question is, everybody possesses a birthright, a natural asset, collateral. It's called intellectual property. Let's say that I invent a system that can broadcast holograms, that can project holograms. I've done that at NASA in '74. I missed the patent because Texas Instruments had the money to do it and came many years later. But I believe that as an individual has an intrinsic value which is intellectual property.
Can we answer this question at the end? Okay. Okay.
I would be happy to take this offline after the session.
Thank you very much. Anyone something to add about the collaboration and the synergy between the three entities?
I would just say that from our point of view, what we realize is there is a connectivity explosion. We were used to have a connection of a straight connection between us, the regulator, and the regulated entities, and now we have an ecosystem of connections, because now we're not only talking with banks as data sources or as third-party providers, but also with fintechs as TPPs or as aggregators, and also with other regulators, like you can see some in the crowd here. And we need to actually sit down and discuss issues that are affecting banks and fintech companies, and it's not, and we understand by this discussion with other regulators that there are differences, big differences between the participant in the ecosystem. But fortunately, I have to say that we did thought about it from the beginning, and we had We had a dedicated forum for potential TPPs and FinTech companies that we try to teach the standard and complicated problems because of localization. At the end, it was an international standard that we brought and implemented in Israel. And I just want to say that if you look up in our website in Bank of Israel, you can see all the information. You can see the directive that we wrote for the banks and all the versioning of the standard, Q&A documents, and all the presentation and recordings of the forum, the FinTech forum. And a shout out that I was obliged to do is that we have a governmental program for funding FinTechs, and you can reach out to us or your advice from the Israeli authority. I hope she's still here, but so yeah, you can reach us out.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you know, for the market to work in an efficient manner, I guess that you just mentioned and indicated the factors you think that should be there in a regulatory perspective. Anything to add on top of this from other aspects?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
A few points that we do recognize is the first thing I think Ami said and already Eyal said it is trust, and then some more trust. We need the customer to trust the data source and the TPP because they are sharing their financial information, and on top of that, we need the trust between the data source and the TPPs. And we believe that for that trust to happen, there is the need to be upholding the regulation and be compliant, and I'm talking about access right and customer consent and privacy issues and so on. And so after we'll have the trust and a good understanding of the standard, as we said, it is very difficult, it is complex. So this is one point, and the other one is patience. As Ami said, it is not a plug and play. The integration process does take time at the beginning, and yeah, the first one was, it was rough for them, but we believe that more TPPs, as long as more TPPs will be in the ecosystem, the flows will be smoother. And another point that we think is very important is to be focused and to understand what is the value that you want to give, not just another aggregation, but a real value to the customer, because an aggregation is, I don't know, maybe it's too easy. And lastly, what we have to do is, in order to this revolution to explode, is the public awareness and usage. We can have a great ecosystem with great participants and everything will work, but if the public isn't there, then we have an issue that we need to resolve. I can say that from our point, the regulators, we do plan a campaign, a public campaign about open banking next year, but we believe that everybody in the ecosystem, all the participants, need to work hard in order to have the public awareness and usage.
Thank you very much, Neria. I'm talking about public awareness and value add. Tamir, maybe it's a question for you. How does Microsoft add value when offering cloud-based services, and how does hyperscalers in general contribute to the open banking revolution? What's your take on this?
So if you think about open banking in technological aspects, it's pretty simple, right? Just exposing the bank data or services. But open banking, it's a lot more than that. It's about collaboration, it's about partnership. And as you see on Ariel's session just before, Microsoft is very focused on the industry, very industry-oriented, their challenges, their trends. And not just that. I think like in the first slide of any presentation Microsoft has, we're saying that Microsoft's mission is to empower every organization and every person on the planet to achieve more. And this is exactly what also Ariel meant before. We are not trying to compete with our customer in the same market. We are trying to empower them to actually be better and achieve their goals faster and better. And we are doing so because we have a lot of experience in the finance industry worldwide. Microsoft is a leader in the finance industry. We are working with the top banks, top FinTechs around the world, so we are familiar with their challenges. We did a journey with them in regards to open banking, and on top of that, we also are working with partners with industry solutions that can also help the ecosystem to everything to work together. And if you're taking all of this collaboration with Microsoft collaboration solution, developing solutions, and of course all the cloud services, you're getting really unique value proposition. Also, Microsoft is working and investing in startups. Okay, we have a program that's called Microsoft for Startups, where we invest, mentor, consult startups, and help them to get into this highly regulated and complex industry, and help them also with the connection with the other participants in the industry in order for them to success.
The name of the game.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we're talking about the regulatory frame, and we know that the open banking revolution is here, also in Israel, and the regulation now supports that. Eyal, it will be interesting to understand your take about the regulatory surrounding. We know that Israel is actually launching the regulatory frame of corporate lenders before different countries in the region. It will be interesting to understand what different countries can learn from these Israeli use cases. What's your take on this?
So it's a very big world and of regulation pushing the market. And first of all, compliments for Israel's regulators, because they started late, but are running faster. They're running faster. Insurance companies in Israel are looking into open banking. It's not happening in the world because they were obliged to open up their consumer lending portfolios. So they said, hey, I'm opening up data, I want to consume data, and they're active, and we're engaging with them to offer use cases to this market. Second is baskets, Saleh Meida, new baskets, which are appearing in Israel before the world. If it's credit, lending, mortgages, and securities, of course. And if innovation can be built on top of those, then other markets, we can export innovation, actually using these data sets outside of Israel. Because the data, it's not generic, but it's similar. And if you develop use cases built on securities, for example, trading in the stock market. And I don't know if you've seen bank data, but the tickers, the stock tickers within the same bank could be multiple tickers for the same stock, or multiple data pronunciations for the same stock. So if you straighten, normalize all that data, and then build on top apps for third parties to use, well, you have innovation that hasn't been opened up anywhere else in the world. And for the example you gave, corporate accounts. It's an innovation of the Israeli regulatory framework. Corporate accounts, opening them not just individuals, but SMBs up to a certain, or businesses up to a certain revenue. And then all corporations will be open in the end of December 2023. All corporations will have access to their corporate accounts within the banks and can provide these data sets, these APIs, to third parties, meaning analyzing corporate banking data, lending data, investment data. That's a first in the world. So leading that, we'll build new use cases. We'll build new use cases on that data set. So I'll give an example. Once you gave a loan out to a big corporation, and actually, even that, how do you monitor the risk? How do you know what's happening after you lent out the money? With using open banking, you can actually monitor day by day, not wait for the financial reporting of that company or the controllers giving out reports to the bank. The bank can actually say, hey, I gave you a loan, I want to see your financial activity across all banks, across the business credit cards. I want to model your behavior and make the market, the lending market, more advanced. Meaning, and we've heard of examples. I'll just give one example. For example, if a major business is giving out salaries every month, and it's paying its C-level executive, and it's paying its CFO, the financial officer. And then 1 month, it's not paying the CFO. And the next month, it's not paying the CFO, meaning someone got fired. We can expect a lot of turmoils to be happening in a couple of months, and we don't want to wait for the financial reports. We want to know that today. We want to know if that business is not behaving in a proper way, and put that into the model, give them a call, see what's the risk, maybe update the risk, dynamic risk. There's no such thing as dynamic risk in the banking systems today. Using open banking and with the new regulatory framework, it's new in Israel, and we can take that out to the world. And this is part of what we're developing with our partners.
Thank you very much, Eyal. This is a very interesting example. Anything to add to me on top of this? Okay. Almost, we're about to wrap it up, and this is almost the last question for Ami. And we heard so many opinions, and it will be interesting to hear your take about how do you consider the open banking revolution? Is it more a threat or an opportunity to the traditional banking player? How do you see that?
Well, I think it can be a risk and an opportunity, right? It depends how the financial institution actually relates to the topic. So obviously it's a risk because we've got new competitors that have access to banking data that can provide new services, and that's a risk, obviously. Business can go out from the bank to different third parties. On the other hand, the bank itself is also able to access data now from other banks, other financial institutions. So we can provide, as banks, better services and also compete with the startups providing additional services that we couldn't have done before. And the banks have trust, right? That Neria said before, and that is an important factor within financial institutions. That is a very, very high hurdle to pass for startups and FinTechs. So there's a bit of both. Banks that create a thinking process, okay, what can we leverage with open banking? What data didn't we have access to now and we now will have access to? How can we provide better services? How can we increase our customer experience with providing better data, better insights on their entire financial situation and not only about their financial situation in the bank, but in a holistic view and insights. So there's a bit of both. Competition is healthy, so it provides better services for the customers. It reduces costs, and that is part of why the regulator is pushing into open banking. Create more competition, reduce costs, and create better services. And I think that will be good for the entire population using these kinds of services.
Thank you very much, Ami. Anything to add before we wrap it up? Someone wants to add something about the future of open banking, the way you see it. Something else, something personal. Okay, that's it. Any questions from the audience? You want to? Okay.
I just want to say about, I just want to say about the future. As Eyal said earlier, we do see there are open API initiatives in the world. We see the Australian one, they have the CDR, it's the Consumer Dollar Right. They focus not only on the financial information, but also on other sectors like infrastructure, gas, electricity, water, and telecommunication. And in Brazil, it's a major advanced open finance ecosystem, and now they are on the path of open health, sharing the person's health information with third-party provider. So we believe that in this case that the sky is the limit, and we are keep on pushing, and as long as it will be in the financial area, we'll believe that we want to push to share and expand all the information that we have. But in future, the regulator, the Mechokek, needs to have a full law about sharing open data.
So you say it goes beyond the financial industry, and that's would be cross-industry solution, and we'll be quite lucky to have it in all areas, right? Thanks for that. Questions? Okay, I see many hands. We don't have so much time. Rui, question. Talk loud.
Yes, I have a question to Neria. You've spoken mostly about giving consent to share information. What about performing transactions, giving orders for buying, selling securities? Are you planning to do it?
Okay, so we're talking about the regulatory aspect of buying, selling, and different orders from the end client.
Yes, mostly securities.
Of securities, okay, yes. Thanks, Ray.
Okay, so yeah, the open banking is actually two-legged. You have the information sharing, but you also have the initiation phase, and it's the path that it will develop, but not in the future, not in the near future. We do have payment initiation process about single payments, and there is a law memo, I don't know how to say tazkir in English, but about initiation of payments in multiple payments and so on. But yeah, you are correct. There is a thinking about initiation of activity, not only payments. But I would have to be real and say it's not in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Yes, at the end. Yeah.
What are the current restrictions and maybe challenges related to personal data, the privacy rules, and maybe GDPR?
Restrictions about privacy. Who wants to answer this one? For the regulator.
If you talk about sharing the information, then from our point of view, first of all, you have the law that you must be compliant to. And then from our point of view, we have our regulation for the banks as data sources, but also as TPPs. And at the end, you have the standard that you are not supposed to share, or you can't even share more information than what is written in it. So, and I think that we got it covered by the way that if a customer has its consent, want to give access right to his current account or his credit card or whatever, then only this information will be shared to the third-party provider. If you are talking about the third-party provider regulation, then yes, it has its regulation from the Israeli Market Authority, that not Israel Security Authority, sorry, that they need to be compliant with their regulation about how to secure the data and so on.
Thank you for that, Maria. And we know that GDPR does not comply in Israel, but maybe the right to be forgotten and some other principles can be. And this is interesting to see where it leads. Yes, please. Question. Yeah.
Thank you. Just from the consumer side, not from the supplier side, I wonder if this integration is not equivalent to.
Don't be shy. Speak loud.
If the integration is not equivalent to creation of a sort of monopoly.
Does it create a monopoly behavior?
Without any tools for the consumer side to confront or to. Now, the truth is that there is some newly emerging.
Do you want to ask someone in specific, or it's a general question for the panel?
Answer it because I'm worried about that side.
Okay, this is an interesting.
That I think has already sort of.
It's an interesting take. Thanks for that. So we're asking here if there is any if we should be worried about monopolistic behavior, because everybody are collaborating and we have so much information sharing. How do you see that? Who wants to answer that?
I think the contrary. It provides a lot of different players to provide services. Collaboration is happening in all industries. It doesn't create monopolies, it just creates more collaborations and sharing, but it does not create one organization that controls the price. It creates more competition. So I think if we're looking at a trend, it would be on the opposite way. That's my point of view.
Thanks, Sami. I fully agree. As long as you're not sharing information about what's the price of a product going to be, so you're still saving and keeping the competition in the market between different entities. We have time for last question. Last question from the audience. Yeah, at the back, please go ahead.
I want to know with the problem with Sam Bankman-Fried that he was indicted for crypto and stealing. How, when we're talking about integration for platforms, how do we make sure that one of the providers is not a liar? And what will the government do for regulation to make sure that there is not another Sam Bankman-Fried in open banking?
Thank you for this question. So we're talking about KYC for different providers that is done by the bank probably. Who wants to answer that? How can we make sure that the provider is not fraud? Basically, when you start to collaborate with the provider, when the bank starts to collaborate with the provider, there's a KYC that is being done. I assume that this is the main.
No, I think I understood your question. What you're asking is how can we make sure that in the open banking ecosystem there isn't a fraud, that someone tried to grab information but it's not a regulated entity or a player in this ecosystem.
Well, it is a regulated player.
If it is a regulated player, then it's a scam, and it's a regulator needs to address this information. Of course, it will be blocked as soon as possible. But if you talk about the ecosystem fencing, I would say, then every TPP, a third-party provider that want to work in the ecosystem, play in the ecosystem, must have a license or an approval from its regulator. We approved the banks and Israeli security authority regulate the third-party provider and give license for the ability to be a player in this ecosystem, and the Israeli market authority as well. So each regulator has to do his due diligence in order to give this participant the ability and the right to play in this playground.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here with me. Ami, Eyal, Riyad, Amir, thank you very much.
Wow, phenomenal panel, and thank you, great panelists. Thanks a lot. And for all members here, one last question before you leave for pizzas on the back. How many of you are actually using FinTech on a, let's say, a weekly basis? Okay? Try to put a survey. Come on, try. Okay, how many of you are using FinTech which is not from banks? Meaning, okay, pretty good. I used to ask this in foreign countries as well, and answer rate is very low. So I'm happy to see that in this way. So we had a great session about open banking. Of course, there's a lot more to talk about, and we just scraped the surface about regulation, about security, about privacy, and about the huge opportunity in it. So thank you very much for coming. Please feel free to get some pizza, get in touch with our members, and I hope to see you all on March 14, 23. We're going to have our annual summit. See you then.